Okay, thank you. I declare the meeting open and welcome you to the July meeting of Council. The recording of this Council meeting will be available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with Council policy, I will now ask Council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, Mayor.
Thanks, Sandy. I would first of all like to acknowledge that we meet on the land of the Malacadee people, the traditional custodians of this land. Our Aboriginal people have a deep spiritual connection to country, and they've cared for our waterways and our land for over 40,000 years in Tasmania. We pay our respect to their customs, elders past, present and emerging. In attendance today we have Councillor Doyle, Councillor Newell, Councillor Prince, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Lovell and Councillor Clark. And welcome, Councillor Clark, to your first ordinary meeting of Council. I would like to introduce our Acting General Manager, Andrew Wardlaw, and ask Andrew if he could introduce the staff that are here this evening, please.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to do so. With me tonight I have the Director of Legal and Governance Services, Matthew Grimsey. I have the Director of Corporate Services, David Spinks. I have the Director of Community Services, Rebecca Stevenson. I have an apology tonight from the Director of Environment and Development Services, Luke Chu. I have support staff with us tonight, Executive Assistant Sandy Rustall and ITC Officer Michael Glazer. I'd also like to introduce you in the community to our new Director of Infrastructure Services, Lachlan Krantz.
Thank you. So we're now going to item 2 of the agenda, which is the non-attendance. We have an apology this evening from Councillor O'May and also Councillor Gibson. We have no leave of absence recorded and no one absent. We move on to item 3, declarations of interest. Councillors, is there any item on the agenda that you wish to declare an interest for this evening? I do have one, which is item 17.015, yes, /21. And for that item, I will vacate the seat and Deputy Mayor Sally Doyle will take the seat. We now go on to item 4, confirmations of minutes. Do I have a councillor to move the minutes for the ordinary meeting of council on the 23rd of June, but also the special meeting of council on the 2nd of July? Councillor Campbell will move. A seconder, please. Councillor Prince is seconding. Were there any changes to that report that the minutes that anybody identified? No? Okay, lovely. So I'll put the motion. All those raise your hand. That's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We go on to item 5. Look, we do have one legislative item this evening, which is the tabling of the certificate of election, and I will now pass over to our Acting Director, Andrew Wardlaw, to take that part. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I would like to table the certificate of election of Susan Jane Clark following the recount for the vacant councillor position. I table the declaration of office pursuant to section 3213 of the Local Government Act 1993. Council is to acknowledge the making of the declaration at this meeting, and this will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Campbell. Seconder, Councillor Newell. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. We go on to item 6. There are no urgent matters. And we go now on to item 7, announcements. I believe, Councillor Clark, you have an announcement? Thank you.
Through the Chair. Thank you, Mayor. I just would firstly like to thank the Mayor, my fellow councillors and the Acting General Manager, all the council staff for making me feel welcome to this council position. May I say that this is not how I envisage being back on council at the expense of ex-councillor Mike Wilson. However, Mike has assured me that he will be back at the next election, and I congratulate him on his persistence and his need to continue the work that he's done over the past 20-odd years. I've always had an interest in the community matters, having previously been elected on council in 1993, not long after the amalgamation of the old Esperance, Port Signet and Huon councils. I was the only female councillor elected at the time, with Mayor Greg Norris, Deputy Mayor Robert Armstrong. We had councillors Paul Harris, Peter Pepper, Peter Code, Laurie Dillon, to name a few. And that was a fairly strong council at the time. But it is great now to see the gender is more equitable with several ladies around the table and especially a female mayor. At the time I first joined council 27 years ago, we were grappling with a number of major issues such as the Huonville bypass, the Southwood project and most importantly the closing of the Huon District Hospital. That was an extremely difficult time for councillors as the community were very vocal in their objections and rightly so. The Labor government at the time, under the Minister David Llewellyn, met with council on a number of occasions and was adamant that they were going to not continue funding the hospital and it was to close. I'm not sure if many people around remember that, but I certainly do. There was an extremely, as I said, extremely difficult time, and that was over 20 years ago. I was part of the Council's Aged Care and Housing Advisory Committee at the time, along with Paul Harris, Francis Bender, Paul Thomas, and we fought really hard to come to an agreement with the government that if the hospital was to close, there would be savings of over $500,000 per annum, and those savings would be put back into the health and wellbeing of the Huon Valley community. Now that was over 20 years ago, and that would be $10 million now, and I'm yet to be convinced that those savings have actually been put back into services here. So did council actually get that money? I think that needs to be looked into. I find that Huonville especially is very sadly lacking in aged care services, including the lack of after-hours care, no on-call doctors, with ambulance shortages, lack of housing for the elderly here in Huonville. And I think there's an opportunity for council to encourage developers to build retirement homes here, instead of people moving out of the area to be closer to medical facilities. I also see a need for petitioning the state government for all hours medical facility here in Huonville, similar to the one that recently opened in the north of the state, that would cater for less urgent medical cases in accident and emergency, thus taking the pressure off the Hobart A&E. We all have our reasons for being on this council, and I have many more issues that I'm keen to address. So in closing, I hope that I can bring something worthwhile to this council table, and I look forward to working with my fellow councillors with the challenges that lay ahead. Thank you for listening.
Thanks,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Clark. Are there any other announcements? My announcement is regarding the Huon Highway Corridor Study. So the state government are undertaking a corridor study of the Huon Highway. The new section of the study will be between Kingston and Huonville to Orchard Avenue, and then it continues a review of the 2012 Huon Highway Corridor Study from just south of the bridge in Huonville all the way down to Southport. We were successful in getting the engagement period with the public consultation for an extra 2 weeks. So that means it's open to the 14th of August. There's a lot of people have got a lot of things to say about the Huon Highway in regards to safety upgrades, for the road to be made more efficient through safety upgrades, and also just a lot more pleasant experience than it is. So this is my call out to our community to put those comments actually into use by filling in the mapping online engagement tool, which is located at transport.tas.gov.au under Southern Road Projects, and you'll see the Huon Highway Corridor Study. It's very simple to use. If you're not comfortable with online giving feedback via that method, you can email at consultationtasmania@jacobs.com. So this is our only opportunity for about the next 10 years, 10 plus years. We only get this opportunity around that sort of cycle, and it's to look at the medium to high, low, medium and high priorities for the Huon Highway upgrade, and its projection is over 30 years. So please use your experience and your frustrations, but what you've seen as what the area of locations along the highway that need to be upgraded. This is our opportunity. So this is a call out from our council, from our councillors and our staff to please get involved, because they are counting every single response as individual responses. Thank you. Right, so we now will go on to public participation, which is item 8 on the agenda. So 8.1, there are no answers to provide from previous questions taken on notice. And then 8.12, questions on notice. We have no questions on notice, but then we have questions without notice. So I'll just go to those. First of all, we have a question from Jeffrey Swan of Lonavale. Question 1 is, on tonight's agenda is the Code of Conduct submission from our council. The Code of Conduct process is the only available mechanism for the community to pursue genuine issues of councillor misconduct. Issues such as mental health, reputation and stress also have a huge impact on the complainants who are forced to pursue a complaint, and I am requesting this be noted in the local government submission being tabled this evening. Why has Council undertaken a closed workshop to discuss their concerns around the Code of Conduct process, culminating in a final report as tabled, without consultation with the community and with no discussion in open council? Mr Swan, the draft submission has been put forward in conjunction with professional and qualified advice and considering any councillor comments made in relation to the discussion paper released by the government. The consultation on the Local Government Code of Conduct Framework commenced on the 5th of July 2021, with submission closing on 8th of August 2021. The Tasmanian Government has committed to consulting with the public about potential targeted legislative changes. Members of the public are able to make a submission on the framework if they have any concerns with the proposed changes. The Department of Premier and Cabinet discussion paper, Local Government Code of Conduct Framework, was distributed to councillors on the 6th of July 2021 for their review and comment. The matter hasn't been discussed in a closed workshop. The submission is presented for consideration in open council where debate on the merits of the submission will occur. I'll now go to a question from Pat Singh, Huon Valley Residents and Ratepayers Association. Question is, we understand that the General Manager's delegated authority to approve contracts was extended to $250,000 last year as part of the response to COVID-19. Can you please indicate when this variance will be rescinded, given the councillors are now meeting as normal, and also, sorry, bit of a sneeze. And also how often this extended authority has been used since it was introduced. And Pat, in response, no changes were made to the approval limits as a result of the response to COVID-19. The delegation, which was already existing for the General Manager to approve contracts of up to $250,000, it wasn't altered. The response as a result of COVID-19 was specifically in support of local business as follows. And I'll just go through that. Procurement, local business support. For the purposes of application of the Council's Code for Tenders and Contracts, GovCorp 013, and the procedures for tenders and contracts, a variance is approved for the purchase of goods and services from by request for, quote, as follows. Despite anything contained within the code and procedures otherwise, the General Manager is authorised to request and accept quotations from local businesses only up to an amount of $249,999.99. Where it is not possible to obtain 3 quotations due to the unavailability of local business in a particular market, the General Manager may accept any quote received in his discretion. The General Manager will provide a report to the Council of the details of any decisions made under this variation. As the COVID-19 emergency remains in place, this measure is still relevant. However, this was only used on one occasion in conjunction with other circumstances with the business as usual procurement process otherwise utilised. Before I go to the next question of Mr Swan's, I am conscious that I have a gallery here this evening and that they may wish to ask a question, some of the people in the gallery. And just to advise that we normally allow 15 minutes, for those of you that haven't been here before, to ask public questions. And to make things fair and equitable, what I normally do is we have a limit of 2 questions per person. So I normally 1 question, then go to the next person, then go back if we have time. And all questions must be directed to me as the chairperson. And I will either answer the question or I will refer the question to the director, who may refer the question to the general manager, who may refer the question to a director. And there'll be no debate allowed on questions. So once an answer is delivered, that's it. There's no debate. Thank you. All right. So is there any questions from the gallery? Yes. And we just ask people to state their name and where they're from as well. Thank you.
Liz Smith, Signet. My question relates to agenda number 15.018/21. During the time that I was a councillor from 2002 to 2016, I felt obliged to make several complaints about the behaviour of other councillors towards me through the Code of Conduct process, which was extremely stressful, and this did result in improvements in the conduct of councillors. So clearly, the serial complaints were not an abusive process. So the reference in the council report to weaponisation through the use of the process, for me, raises the question. And the question is, what are the reasons for the use of the term weaponisation, since no one who had undertaken a complaint would take on another without feeling that they had a strong case? And will this term be removed from council's submission?
Thank you for your question. I'll go through the general manager, if that's all right.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor, I'll just defer to the Director of Legal and Government
Certainly.
Services.
The term weaponised has been a term which has been used and concerns raised from councillors through in state forums, or regional forums, sorry.
Thank you. So it's a reference to a regional forum where wording has been used. Thank you. Any other questions from the gallery? Thank you.
Andy Waterhouse, Ranelagh. Mayor Enders, with the General Manager's position, how many were actually given, how many came forward with the position?
We've answered, so you might not have watched probably the previous meeting that we had. We're not in the position, due to confidentiality, that we are able to release any of that information. That information is discussed in closed council meetings. I'm just trying to recollect who asked that question last time. Was it Pat, do you think? Yeah, so we have already responded previously to a member of the public regarding that. Those discussions are held in closed meeting, and we are not able to release that information.
Well, Mayor Enders, all I'm asking for is a number, not who
This is not a
applied.
debate. This is
no,
not
it's
a
not a debate, but I'd
Mr.
like
Waterhouse.
transparency on the matter.
Mr. Waterhouse, there's not a debate.
Well, I'm a
We
shareholder of
responded.
this council, as every other community
Mr.
member.
Waterhouse, you are debating this matter.
Yeah.
You can either sit down.
I will sit down, but I find it totally unacceptable. If
Look,
you know the number, there's 40, you think as a committee member, oh, that's great, that amount.
Mr.
there's
Waterhouse, do you not understand?
I understand very clearly.
Are you ready to leave? Is that what you want to do? I am requesting as the chair, I have already stated that we don't debate here and that there has been a question provided.
I fully understand, Marion.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Mr. Grimsey, Matt Grimsey, there was a response that we have put that on the website because that would have come as a question.
From memory, there was a
Chair?
question asked at the last council meeting that was answered, so that should form part of the minutes as well as on the website.
All right. So I will refer you to the last meeting. There is a question and a response that is pretty much identical to what you were just saying. So you'll actually see the written response there.
Well, I say no more, I can't. I've been
No.
silenced. If I say any more, I'm asked to leave. That's the case, and you're not willing to answer.
Only because you were continuing to debate when there was already... you need to respect the actual meeting protocols, Mr
Yeah.
Waterhouse.
Yes, I will, Mayor Enders.
Thank you.
I'm making a statement. I'm asking a question.
Yeah,
You know,
and I
it's
did-
unacceptable in my view.
Please
that's
sit down.
I'll sit down.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Okay, so we'll go back to the second question of Mr Swan's. Following the leak of extremely confidential information surrounding the General Manager's recruitment process, will Council please provide a comprehensive description of the Huon Valley Council email system and provide assurance the system is fail-safe? And the questions that he asks is, who by job title has access to emails sent to the Huon Valley Council email address? Who by job title has access to emails sent to the councillors' Huon Valley Council email addresses? Who in management has access to emails coming into the Huon Valley Council email system? Are councillor emails still printed out and placed in a pigeonhole arrangement as has been the process in the past? What, if anything, is Council proposing with respect to tightening up confidentiality on electronic communications? And our answer to Mr Swan is that this is a serious matter that has been referred to the Director of Local Government. When matters of this serious nature are referred to the Director, there is always the possibility of the matter being investigated. The Huon Valley Council will assist the Director of Local Government in any way they can, should they wish to investigate the alleged breach. The Huon Valley Council is not able to make any further comment on the alleged breach of confidentiality on the advice of the Director of Local Government. And I realise that may not satisfy some people, but should the Director need to investigate, it's like any other police investigation. There can't be discussion at this level that might affect the outcome of what needs to occur. So now we're going on to 8.2. There are no deputation addresses to... Certainly, yes.
Liz Smith, Signet. Has a media release on the outcome of agenda item 20.040/21 2015 Australia Day Award in closed council on June the 23rd been issued by the council?
Where was that on the website?
It was at the last council meeting in closed council, and the result of such a matter in closed council should then be reported to the public.
That depends whether it's a decision of the council in closed. I will actually have to refer this one to the General Manager because I was not present on that report item, so I cannot speak to it. I was not there, so I will need to refer to the General Manager.
Through you, Mayor, I do not believe there was actually a media release as such issued. There was media comment provided to the effect that council in closed session, need to be careful with the wording here. I might just refer to the Director to make sure I get the wording right on this one, so
Yes,
I just don't want to get it wrong because it was
Yeah.
in closed session.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The release that was in closed council was to note the relinquish of the award. There was no media statement or media release resolved by council to be issued.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Smith. All right, we will move on now, out of questions. 8.2, there are no deputation addresses to council. Number 9, there are no petitions. Number 10, we go on to general reports. We have a few reports itemised there for this evening. And just refer to the Acting General Manager whether he wishes to talk to the General Manager's report.
Thank you, through you. Madam Mayor, no, the reports are there. Happy to take any questions associated with them, but I think they're self-explanatory.
Are there any questions at all from councillors? No? Okay. Then there's Mayor Ender's activities report. I normally select 3, which is quite often difficult to do, but so attended the declaration of office for Councillor Clark. That was great. And then I had a visit from Year 5 and 6 Huonville Primary School students who actually came into these chambers to use their debating skills, which was fantastic. And Mr Waterhouse might like to know that they debated cats. And the subject matter was every home that the policy had changed, the government policy had changed, and that every home had to have a cat or more than a cat. So they debated whether that was okay or not. It was very informative and very entertaining, and they did a great job. So that was excellent. And then the next item was attended the Dover History Museum, the 10th anniversary and maritime history launch, and that was well attended by the locals down at Dover, but also politicians, which was great to see them all out there supporting the community group. And it's a lovely lovely museum. If you haven't been there, I'd suggest that you go. And that's it for me. I have a report here, Deputy Mayor Doyle's activities report. Do you have anything to say to that?
Not tonight, thanks.
Okay, thank you. We have the Human Resources Quarterly Update. That's included in there from the 1st of April through to the 30th of June, so that quarter. Not hearing any questions. Youth Committee notes. So did you want to know anything about the Youth Committee notes? You're happy? You've read the report? Also included is the Southern Tasmanian Council's Authority Quarterly Report in there, and also the Taswater General Meeting draft minutes, all with links to the actual minutes, so for the public to have a look at. Councillors, are you tabling any activities this evening? No? All right. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Did you want to talk to yours at all? Thank you. Do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period 1 to 30th of June be received and noted? Yes. It's Councillor Newell, seconded by Councillor Prince. Thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now go on to item 11, council workshops, and hand you over to the acting general manager to talk through those.
Thank you, Mayor Enders. Yes, since the last meeting, there's been three workshops. A workshop on the 29th of June, Waste Management Strategy workshop. On the 6th of July, a workshop with the Draft Reconciliation Action Plan, and also further consideration to the priority projects list. I guess starting to get ready in the lead up to a potential federal election later this year, or most likely next year, I would think. And the 14th of July, there was a workshop on roads, the Huonville Link Road, and the Legat motions that are being considered in tonight's report.
Right, thank you. We now go on to item 12, councillor questions. There are no questions taken on notice, and just asking if there are councillors any questions at this point? No? All right, lovely, thank you. We'll go on to our first report for the evening. Local Government Code of Conduct Framework Discussion Paper, agenda number 15.018/21. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Councillor Clark, yeah? Thank you. A seconder, please? Yes, that's Councillor Newell. Councillor Clark, would you like to speak to the motion?
I haven't really got anything to say much about this one, Mayor. I feel that I've had a good look at the Code of Conduct framework, and it's been adequately dealt with in the report. So yes, I just approve it.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody against the motion? No? Well, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. So So the next report we have is the Local Government Association of Tasmania General Meeting Motions. Agenda number 15.019/21. And I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. What I would like to achieve from this is to find out whether councillors wish to pass this in one big block, meaning that they are supportive of the recommendations that the officers have made. But I will be seeking someone to move the motion, please. Yes, thank you, Councillor Lovell. A seconder, Councillor Prince. I'll give you just a second just to go through those recommendations from the officer, just to see that you're happy with those. And then I'll... I know that you have looked at them before, but it's good to look at them again before we do this.
Through you, Mayor.
Yes.
I do have a question about recommendation 14.3 regarding, I do support that motion, however I would just have a question. If there is to be a review of all state regional land use strategies, will this council be given the opportunity to speak on that or have an input into it?
Absolutely. There are 3 regional authorities in Tasmania, and the Southern Tasmanian Council Authority, as well as the Hobart City Deals. They are the 12 councils in Southern Tasmania, and they will absolutely be consulted on that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so councillors, are you happy with the recommendations that you are seeing there from the officer? Do you need a bit more time? Councillor Campbell, do you need just a little bit more time? Okay, all right. Okay.
Can I just seek, Ma'am?
Yes.
Can I seek clarification on what's supporting 14.7, please?
14.7. So what is your question?
Well, just the EPA obviously has a role in assessing things, and I'm just wanting, I suppose, to find out why the Valley Council doesn't support the motion as it stands.
Okay, so there is in the actual report itself, if you flick through on 17.7, oh, so what number? 14.7, sorry, there wasn't a 17.7. 14.7, there is actually the officer's notes there in the big part of the report there. So in the actual associated report, yeah.
Yeah, I've got that, yes, so the...
All right. Okay, cool. All right, that's good. Okay. All right. So, can I get a consensus from the councillors that they are happy with all of those officer recommendations? Yes? A nod? Okay, good. Thank you very much. All right. So, since no one is against those, I will put the motion that we will receive all of those, and well, as per the recommendation that's there. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. Just save spending a long time doing individual ones. All right. Now we go to the next report, which is proposed motions for Local Government Association of Tasmania, Legat General Meeting, agenda number 15.020/21. And I will refer to the Director, Matthew Grimsey, just to explain the substitute motion, please.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a substituted attachment B. Motion 1, councillor vacancy, change of enrolment. The original motion was effectively that the Local Government Association of Tasmania call upon the Tasmanian State Government to amend the Local Government Act 1993 to provide a mechanism that when a councillor changes their House of Assembly electoral enrolment to an address outside the municipal area to which they are elected, that the General Manager and the councillor are notified within 7 days of that change of enrolment. An alternative has been included at the end of that, recognising that there is a potential impact that that has on the Tasmanian Electoral Commissioner, which would say, or as an alternative, that once the General Manager becomes aware of the change of enrolment and the councillor is otherwise eligible to be enrolled in the General Manager's electoral role, the councillor is to be given 7 days notice to rectify their enrolment before the office of councillor becomes vacant. So that also addresses the issues that we want to address.
Can I move that motion, please?
Absolutely, Councillor Clark. And a seconder, please. Yes, Councillor Newell. Thank you. You would like to speak to that, please?
Yes, I just would firstly like to say thank you to the Director of Legal and Governance Services, Matthew Beasley, for your help with this. We did discuss it at length, and I think this council will be the leaders in implementing the solution to the problem that's had serious implications to this council and to other councils in the past, apparently. So we decided to combine the two recommendations because I felt that giving the second option maybe passed through if the other one was felt to be too on the electoral office. So once again, I'm sure the councillors hope we will get some support.
Thank you. Is there any councillor against the motion? No? So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand, and that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Clark. We now go on to the next item, report, lease of public land, Dover Community Workshop, agenda number 15.021/21. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Yes, Councillor Prince. A seconder, please. And that is Councillor Lovell is seconding. Councillor Prince, do you have any opening remarks?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Is there a councillor against the motion? No? Well, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. I now advise that the council is acting as a planning authority as at 6:37. Thank you very much, Sandy. In accordance with the provisions of Part 2, Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, the council will now act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993. The report that we have in front of us is Planning Application DA 163/2021, single dwelling at 142 Brayside Road, Franklin. Agenda number 17.014/21. Is there someone to move, a councillor to move a motion? Yes, thank you, Councillor Newell. A seconder? Yes, thank you, Councillor Doyle. Councillor Newell, do you have any opening remarks?
No, Mayor, but I think this would be a beautiful addition to Brayside Road.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is there any councillor against the motion? No? Well, then I'll put the motion. All those councillors in favour, would you please raise your hand? And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. I now advise that the council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at 6:38. Thank you very much. All right, and this is where I must vacate the chair and ask my deputy to sit in the chair. Thank you. So I'll just put there.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start. Okay, we have request for a certificate under section 138Y of the Land Titles Act 1980 relating to the land adjoining 26 and 28 New Road, Franklin. The agenda number is 17.015/21. I refer to the recommendations of this report Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Lovell. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Prince. Yep. So, Councillor Lovell, have you got something to open with?
No, thank you, Mayor. Pretty straightforward. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any... yeah, it's a new one, isn't it? Is there any speakers against the motion? So, I'll put it forward then. All those in favour? Hands? That's all, and that's motion carried. That's a bit different. There was a few new lines in there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Doyle. We now go on to the next report, Natural Resource Management Strategy 2016 to 2021 Annual Report 2020 to 2021, agenda number 17.016/21. I'll refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Newell, thank you. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Prince. Would you like to speak to that? No, thank you. Okay, thank you. Is there any councillor against the motion? No? Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move to the next report, the Huon Valley Weed Management Strategy 2018 to 2023 Annual Report 2020 to 2021, agenda number 17.017/21. I'll refer councillors to look at the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Lovell, a seconder please. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Lovell, do you have any comments? Thank you. Is there any councillor against this motion? No? I'll put the motion. All those councillors in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next report is the Community Engagement Summary Report, Draft Huon Valley Volunteering Strategy, agenda number 19.008/21. Once again, I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move a motion, please? Yes, Councillor Newell. A seconder, please. Councillor Lovell, thank you. Councillor Newell, do you have any comments? No, thank you. Okay. Is there any councillors that wish to speak against this recommendation, this motion? No? Okay. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So, we now come to the conclusion of the meeting this evening. Once again, next Wednesday the 25th of August is the next ordinary council meeting. And we bid you farewell and see you next time perhaps. Thank you.